Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Wow, it's kind of a lot. Um, you know what? Let's get to the. I don't want to sit there and say the worst part, but the part that really made me care less, and that is the five of them. Trina, Jocelyn, Cam, Spencer, and Esme. I think I got them all right. So they start playing this drinking game. And before then, Esme put something in Trina's drink. They start drinking and asking these questions. And I'm gonna be honest. This is where I start to lose a bit of interest. You know, you have every time somebody says something, the other person has to drink. So the first time Trina drank whatever was in, um, stuff that Esme put in there, really hit her hard. Now, everyone's there sharing stories like Spencer and Esme about their skiing and how they got to be together, and same thing with Jocelyn and Jocelyn and Cam. And, at this point, I'm just like, yeah, okay. Still wondering what they put in that drink, but can we fast forward this or something? Um, anyway, they get to a point. I don't know what was in Trina's drink, but whatever it was, um, Esme brings up the whole, Jocelyn going after her crush, which was Cameron, and Jocelyn's not there trying to explain, like, listen, when we got together, me and her made a pact that we're not going to have any person come before our friendship. So she's going on and on about that. And there's a couple of times where Trina's like, well, I really didn't have a choice as far as like, y'all two being together or whatever. Then she starts talking about how she wished everything went back to normal, and now it's just, her and Cam, and, there's not really a lot of room for her, and blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna be completely honest, and I know that some people probably have sympathy for her, but I really, really didn't. I didn't at all. I mean, yeah, it sucks. Listen, they were all friends at one point, and then they got together, and they became a thing, and she became the third wheel. It's life. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, "Oh man, Trina, that's such a shame." It's like, no, I don't know. I I wrote some stuff that I'm not gonna sit there and say because it's kind of mean. But what I will sit there and say is that Trina, for me, comes across as very guarded, very, very guarded, very unapproachable. And I'm just like, all right, maybe you should probably go out and try to get a boyfriend then. This way you won't feel like the third wheel and you can sit there and hang out with your friends and not feel like you're kind of, you know, in their way or feeling like you're left out, you know? And she comes, like I said, she comes across as very unapproachable. And it's good. I'm just gonna sit there and say, even though I know people are gonna sit there and hate me for saying this, but there's a lot of times where Trina just seems like she has this resting bitch face, and it's very off-putting if you're in college or whatever, and you're trying to meet new people, and you're trying to, and I know I'm sitting there just trying to dig myself out of this hole, but it's true, you know. Um, I am so not redoing this again. I'm really not. I'm sticking to this, and that's that. But um, my point is, she just comes across as very guarded, and I mean, here's the thing: it's not like Trina isn't pretty. Trina's a very pretty, um, beautiful woman when she smiles, and she's not like has this look on her face. So I'm like, maybe you should probably try that instead of like whining about, your friends becoming a couple. It's like they're still going to be your friends, but, life happens. Anyway, whatever is in her drink, it starts to hit her hard, and she runs off into the bathroom. Um, she runs off into the bathroom, and she's not feeling good. And Jocelyn comes in there, and she feels bad, and she's trying to explain that through the door. And Trina's like, I don't want to be bothered. I want to be left alone. Just leave me be. So at this point, Jocelyn's had enough. She's had enough, and the only reason why she was sitting there putting up with this is mainly for Spencer. But at this point, she comes back in there, and it's like she, starts acting like her mother's daughter. She's pissed off at her for playing this game or whatever, and just coming at Trina like that. And she pretty much called her to be, saying that she's manipulating. She's a very manipulative person, and she's manipulating Spencer by quote unquote his pants, which, let's be honest, is the truth. Um, so she just calls her out, and you can see in the preview towards the next one, they really get into it. I gotta sit there and wonder, what was your end game? I mean, what was Esme's end game for them to sit there and fight and get in an argument and what? Like that was it? You put something in a drink and made her feel fuzzy and like really? See, this is exactly the reason why I'm just so not invested so far into this. Now maybe down the line she may become a great villain or whatever, and I guess she's stirring a pot, so I guess that's something. But it's like, come on, seriously? Like this really? See, it's stories like this that really make me sit there and think back to when I first started watching this show. When I first started watching soap operas in general, because it was a completely different animal, and it makes me wonder sometimes, is some of these episodes boring because I've been so used to watching this show for so long, or is just the qualities of the show not as good as it was? You had better villains back then. You didn't have to sit there and deal with people like no. You had people like Helena. You had people like Faith. You had actual villains. Um, you had Manny, a guy with the tattoos that is so intimidating. And I'm pretty sure I'm naming him right. Manny, the Spanish guy who is threatening no matter whatever he plays in. You had real villains, and we go from that to her. I mean, I felt more compelling villains in Degrassi. This is okay. Let's just kind of move on from that. I just remembered her name now. I think her name is Deannan. I think something with a D. Anyway, the nurse is, attending Sunny, and Sunny asks, am I going to be alive? And she's like, oh, it's above my pay grade or whatever. I don't know. And then she just kind of walks off in that vague answer, like, um, you could have said something other than that. So at this point, Sunny's walking around. He probably is still going through a manic episode. He walks to, he's pretty much he starts to walk out, and he come across Monica. They talk about Jason for a little bit. She asks him, "Is he okay?" But then she goes about her business, and Sunny's about to leave. Runs into Brando, and more or less, Brando's like, listen, I want to talk. He talks about his son and missing him and just all these feelings, of sadness, but also just he doesn't know what to do. And he's very conflicted because it's like he's grieving, but it's like, he feels in his head that he's grieving for someone that he didn't really get to know. And Sonny just kind of breaks it down like, no, it's more about the future that you could have had with him. So they have this really, I guess, nice "This Is Us" kind of moment. I always sit there and say stuff is "This Is Us" kind of moment whenever they reach that pinnacle. Um, so they start talking and just talking about their problems and you know about Sasha and how he can't really sit there and talk to Sasha because he feels that Sasha is adjusting better than him because she's just moving on and she's just working and He is just wallowing in grief and it's messing up his work. And long story short, you know, Sonny kind of realized, when you sit there talking to him, like, what gets you through it? Like, what makes you so wise and so much of a great person? And how do you deal with so much stuff? And so that really got him thinking. And, long story short, after they finished crying and everything like that, they talked about therapy and just getting checked in for help. So, um, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like he just came at the nick of time as far as, kind of helping Sonny get back on his meds and back, to, um, not in that state, which I gotta sit there and say, I am surprised that they went there with Sonny. I really am. Sonny is a method actor, and if you know Sonny Maurice, you know that in real life he deals with bipolar. So to actually have him go down this dark route, I was just kind of wondering, one, what the hell are you doing? And second, how long is this going to last? Now, like everyone else, hopefully it doesn't last too long. Listen, I don't mind dealing with a mental health storyline, but when I know in the back of my head that the actor doesn't really like playing like this dark version of Sunny, um, and going down a story which is dark, um, knowing in the back of my head is like, I don't know if this is going to really sit with Maurice too long. So hopefully they kind of just start to veer back on some sort of course and go from there. Victor, Victor just doesn't have a soul at this point. I'm this guy is literally capable of anything. He actually goes in the room and he wants this information to control Drew so bad that he actually tells Peter, "Oh, by the way, Bailey is Louise, and she's living in the Quartermains." And I'm assuming that Maxie and Brooklyn conspire because, well, I mean, why else would they actually be friends out of nowhere? And I'm like, damn, bro. What are we planning on doing next? Robbing some orphanages? Like what are we gonna do next? Like, so he tells him this information. At first, he's in kind of disbelief, but then he believes it. And Victor's like, all right, so that's cool because Peter's like, I'm gonna vow vengeance on Maxie and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And you do you, but we need to kind of like, and I told you something, you tell me something, we can kind of just complete this whole thing. And Peter's like, yeah, no, because you didn't fulfill the other part of the bargain. I wanted my daughter in my hands. You told me where she was, and that's great, but she's not here, and you need to break me out because if you don't, then I'm not going to sit there and tell you the secret. I'm like, now Victor's all mad, and he's angry, and I'm just like, bro, you did you forget not that long ago he double crossed you before? Like he literally double crossed you before. You are dealing with a villain. You're a villain yourself. I don't understand how he's not. I feel like he's too old for this. He's too old for this. He's been around the block way too many times, and for him to sit and be shocked like you're not going to hold up the end of your bargain, I don't even know what to say about that. So he wants to break him out. Maxie, not Maxie, Monica comes in the room to sit there and gloat, and saying that you're going to be discharged, you're going to be going back and rotting the rest of your life, and you did this to my sons, and yada yada yada. Carly and Nina. Now, at first, I thought that Nina was going to sit there and tell Carly, "Listen, you need to sit there and check on your husband. He's having a manic episode, and I'm just hoping that he, refills his meds." But she doesn't do that. She just basically says, "You belong with Sonny, and I'm an afterthought, and this, that, and the third, and I don't really matter." And I'm like, "You are okay." So you could have told her the truth. That could have helped Sonny even more, but you just What did you think that was going to accomplish? So they get into it back and forth, and Sasha comes in there, and Carly's like, you're not handling your grief well. You seem like you're very up and high, and because Sasha's talking about deception, she's happy, she's proud, and it's gonna raise the company and it's gonna be good, and she's just trying to move forward and one step forward and stuff. But Carly doesn't feel like she's grieving in this proper way, and I've said this before. I've said this before. I am no medical profession or a therapist, but I will sit there and say that everyone grieves in their own way and in their own way. And the one thing that will definitely piss someone off, upset someone at the very least, is having someone tell you they don't feel that you're handling your grief in the way that you should be handling it. The thing is, they could be right. They could be right, but you're not ready to hear that. You feel that you are handling your stuff in your way. And this is when Sasha was like, listen, I love you, I respect you, and everything like that. But do not sit there and tell me how to feel. Do not sit there and tell me how to process what I'm going through. And I understand that Carly and Nina was coming from a place of love and a place of understanding, but we're not all the same. We're not going to sit there and deal with things all the same way. Um, so more or less, Sasha laughed, and then Nina says once again X, Y, and Z about Sunny, and Carly's like, well, she does her usual Carly thing and she walks off. And Nina didn't really do anything to further or help the situation. As a matter of fact, I felt like she just made things worse. So, or better, depending on which way the pendulum is going to work for her. Valentine figures it out. Valentine figures it out. He figures out that Bailey is really Luis after talking to Martin, just kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and he figured it out. He figured it out, and so he goes to the hospital with Yuri and Monica to sit there and check on how Bailey's doing. And Monica's like, I haven't really seen her since she moved out with Chase. So at this point, he goes to the nurse station and asks to get like records or whatever or information about Bailey. And Victor's like right behind him. So at this point, you just have way too many people that know. And I thought that Austin was going to find out. I really did. I really thought that, Maxie was going to sit there and tell Austin the truth. But she didn't. She didn't. She lied. She lied. She lied. Even after Austin was like, I heard another voice. You're sitting there telling me that I didn't hear something. You need to stop lying to me. So Maxie sits there and takes his defensive. And long story short, just sit there and try to shut him up. Apparently, she kissed him. Um, I kind of just looked at that whole thing like this is just so. Again, the age gaps. It just like no, not for me anyway. But apparently, whatever it was enough to make Austin to be like, oh, well, I was feeling like I remember something, but it could have been nothing. I don't know now. It's like, so she kissed you once and you just, all that ass just went out the window. Okay, sure. I guess we're doing this. Well, I kind of feel bad for Austin because Peter is going to go with, he wants revenge. Okay, he wants revenge for, he wants to get revenge on Brooklyn, Maxie, and Hal. Even though that Victor said that Austin doesn't know anything, why not? You're in the way. So, Felicia was there too. Didn't really add anything to the episode, but she was in there as well. And I'm gonna be honest, what did Sasha actually do in this episode? Sometimes I feel like some of these episodes should play out a certain way. Like, okay, because Brandon was there and he was talking about his feelings with Sunny, um, Sasha was there to pretty much not talk about her feelings And also point out that, Brandon wants to sit there and talk about his villains, but she doesn't want to do that because she wants to move on and move forward. But I did just kind of think there was kind of an odd, like, side step. I mean, I guess it was kind of a nice break between having Nina and Carly go at each other, especially since it seems like they just say the same things over and over again. Anyway, with that being said, I think that's actually about it. I want to thank you all for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.